What's up, guys? This is Brave, and I'm back with another review of Sistas. This is season 2, episode 14, and the episode is titled Just For Me. So, as you know, this episode starts off exactly where I left off last week, which is with Dani. She's at her job, and she's basically getting yelled at by two redneck trailer park trash hillbillies, aka Preston's brothers. So I can't lie, this scene for me ran a little bit too long because I feel like at a certain point the insults, they became very repetitive, but they were just basically going on and on about how Dani needs to stay away from Preston. She's not going to get any of their money, and they also let her know that Preston dating Dani was all a bet, because they made a bet that he would not be able to get a black girl to hook up with or whatever. Like, basically, he was never supposed to actually date her. Throughout this entire scene, though, we do see, like, Dani kind of snapping back at them, but she's doing it in a way that she's trying to keep her job. So, she's trying to low-key snap back at them. But after a certain point, she definitely got fed up, because once they started to walk away, she's like, forget this. And she, like, goes up to them and kind of goes off. One other thing is the fact that they even bought tickets just so that they can have this conversation with her is out of control. So after she, like, rolled up on them and she's, like, kind of going off on them, Zach, he ends up pulling up in the cart, because, that's all he do at the airport is roll around in his cart. And he's like, yo, like, why are you guys, basically attacking Dani? And they start going off on him, calling him Jamal and all these other things. And Dani's trying to calm Zach down, because we don't want him to go back to jail, first of all. And, she felt like she could probably handle this on her own. I mean, she definitely handled it, because the next thing you know, she hops in the car and she runs over the guys. And I'm like, rightfully so, because the disrespect that they had for Dani was out of control. After that, we get a scene of Maurice. He's actually going into Sabrina's office. As we know, she was in there with Jacoby trying to teach him how to do something. And he's just like, all right, you guys have been in here for a while. What's going on? Jacoby ends up leaving, and Maurice has a conversation with Sabrina. This conversation first starts off with him talking about how her teaching Jacoby, it was taking a long time, and she's like, no, there's nothing going on. And he's like, okay, well, did you see Calvin? And of course she's like, oh, he was here. The deer in headlights that she likes to do. And he's like, yeah, he also saw you with Jacoby, And basically this whole scene was about Maurice letting her know that the drug results, they were in. So we first open up Jacoby's results. He's clean. And then we open up Calvin's. And Calvin is clean. She's like, oh, that's good news, but I'm still going to wait for him to call me. First of all, why are you waiting on him to call you when you're the one who had all these assumptions about him? And Maurice brings up a good point of, you need to stop letting people basically tell you these things and then you automatically believe them. I do agree with that. I think that Sabrina needs to get it out of her head that what other people are saying is always true. But also, it's very strange for that guy to have made those accusations about Calvin. Like, to say that someone is out here doing meth out of nowhere, and then you lied and said that you saw him do it, that's a bit crazy. Like, now I'm just really questioning. I'm just like, what was that guy's motive when he told Dani that? Because that's weird. So besides that, Maurice and Sabrina, they kind of go into the relationship that she has with Calvin, because Maurice is like, at this point, what more do you want from this guy? Like, he is clean, he's a good guy, he hasn't really done anything that is crazy or to hurt you, you know what I mean? What's the problem? And she finally admits that he's not the guy that she thought she would end up with. She wants a guy that has a little bit more of an edge to him. And as we know, that's not Calvin. So Maurice is like, so you want somebody to kind of knock you upside the head. Like, basically, you want someone who's rougher than what Calvin is, well, what he is or what he will ever be. And in that moment, she's like, well, yeah, kind of, but no. You know how she's super indecisive. And he's like, oh, okay, so you're just looking for the next best thing. And then we get into the conversation of Sabrina liking Jacoby, and we all know Sabrina likes him and he likes her. Calvin is like, okay, well, just go out with him and see what's that like. And she's like, no, I don't want to do that because of Calvin and all this stuff. And like, at that point, Maurice is just like, I need for you to figure this out, because you're basically just running around in circles like a chicken with your head chopped off, because you don't know what you want, and you're not fully willing to accept Calvin for all of who he is. Like, let's be honest. If I was in her shoes, like, I don't think I could be with Calvin just because he does a lot of things that I personally do not like. And I feel like she has that same conflict. Like, he does a lot of things that she does not like, but at the same time, he's still a good guy. So it's hard to kind of let him go. But Sabrina is still an annoying character. So the next storyline that we have going on is, so we next see Danny and Zach. They're on that plane again, and they're just basically having a conversation about what just happened. Like, who were those guys and all this stuff. And Danny has to explain that they're Preston's brothers, and he's like, well, is he like those guys? And she's like, no, but he wasn't answering her phone calls. Like, honestly, I really like the friendship between Danny and Zach. Like, at first, I didn't really understand it, because I'm just like, why is she always riding so hard for Zach? Why she always open up her doors to Zach? But I do like the fact that they can both kind of bounce off of each other when it comes to their emotions and how they're feeling, because they kind of give each other sound advice as well as be like a rock for each other, considering he has no other friends and the ladies don't have any respect for Danny, and they just take her as a big joke. And I feel like Zach is more considerate of how Danny is feeling about certain things. So she then goes and asks him, like, so did you really, do that to Karen? Did you really charge her card up? And he's like, no, I really didn't. But it's messed up that she, threw out my grandfather's things. And I guess she threw it to the lost and found at the airport. I wasn't really sure on that part. But Danny ended up bringing the box to him, and he was very appreciative of that. But when it comes back to, him in this car situation, she's like, well, you have that truck and all this stuff. So he's like, it's a work truck and all this stuff. And she's like, okay, but you're not really telling me what you're doing. So he had to open up to her and let her know that he was a part of the Chain Breakers program. And she's like, wow, that's really good for you, Zach. Oh, so you're doing this for Karen? And he's like, no, I'm doing this for me. I just really want to prove it to myself that I can do this. And he even mentions how his new girl, he never says her name, which is, we know it's Fatima. he's basically like, she supports me and she makes me feel like, I can do anything and I can, really trust that I can and believe in myself that I can do it. And he's never gotten that from Karen. At one point, Zach got real emotional, started getting a little teary-eyed. I'm like, okay, Zach. But it is good to see that he's in this place right now and that he wants to better himself. All right, so the next scene we have Fatima. She is confronting Hayden about his actions when it comes to Zach. So, she's just like, did you talk to him? Did he talk to Zach? And he admits that he does. And then he goes on about how she shouldn't be dating guys like Zach, because he's been to jail. And she's like, you could have been any one of those guys who went to jail. Stop acting like as if you're just so much better than them just because you never been to jail. Hayden is one of the most aggravating characters this show has, just because we thought he was going to be one way and he is not at all. We all thought he was a cool, chill dude, but no, he's terrible. He's an a-hole. She literally has to tell him to get it through his head that they are not going to be together. She has no interest in him. And the fact that he keeps going and saying, look at me. I'm basically yelling out that he's the perfect guy for her. And it's no, you're not what she wants. Let it go. So next thing you know, she storms out and she ends up catching the eye of Andy. Andy's that sounded a bit heated, is everything okay? And Fatima kind of opens up, but not really. She's basically letting her know that, they dated one time, not even dated, they went out one time, and that was pretty much it. But as we know, at this point, this is definitely harassment. So Andy actually apologizes, for being very short with Fatima. Remember when she came into her office and was like, I need such and such on my desk, and she had a little attitude. I'm glad to see that Andy is apologizing for that because Fatima did not deserve it at all. So they talk about that, and Fatima's like, I understand because you have a lot on your plate, a lot going on with all the Gary drama, the people at the office knowing your business and all of that. And honestly, that was pretty much where that conversation left off for me, because next thing you know, we have Paris coming in to say hello to Andy and to talk to her. And I completely forgot that this whole thing with Paris and Gary happened the night before, because he's yeah, about the other night or about last night. And I'm last night? Jesus Christ, we've had how many episodes since then? So basically within this scene, we have Paris and Andy having a conversation about, his mom stopping by to see Andy. Well, not really coming to see her, but she was in her office cleaning, just to be oh yeah, I saw your mom, whatever. And then we have Paris basically letting Andy know that it's absolutely cool if she contacts him because clearly he's interested in her, but he wants her to only contact him when she is clear and sober, because every time she does contact him, she's drunk or, all this drama is going on. And he's clearly not here for the baggage or getting to know her while she's drunk. He wants to know the real Andy when she's sober. I can really respect him for saying that, just because at this point, she really has treated him as this rebound guy, but he's clearly way more interested in her than just being a hookup or, some guy she can have fun with. So after that, we get a scene of Fatima giving Zach a call. She basically lets him know that he didn't do anything. She has handled the situation with Hayden. He has nothing to worry about, and that she wants to see him. And he's trying to give her some pushback, but as we know, she ain't having that. So he agrees to come and see her. And, I like them together. I'm sorry. I just do. I think that her giving him that extra push and Zach trying to change to be better, I'm here for it. So we then see Danny. She goes to Sabrina's house because all the ladies will be meeting up there for dinner. And, she just opens up to Sabrina about how Preston's brothers, they just showed up to her job and called her out her name and was just super rude, super disrespectful. She feels some type of way because he hasn't been calling her. He hasn't been responding to her text. And she's like, I know that Preston, he's not like that. He wouldn't do that to me. She doesn't believe that he did it. Or that he knew that his brothers would act like this and that this whole bet thing happened. I just feel like she's definitely giving Preston the benefit of the doubt, but he needs to call her or something to give her that confirmation. So after that, Karen arrives and, she goes for her bottle of wine and she talks about the whole Zach spending her money on her credit card. And Sabrina ends up looking at the paperwork and all this stuff. And at some point through this, Andy, she does arrive and join in on the conversation. So, they're like, Karen, you know that you can, report these charges as being fraud. They're not you. And she's like, yeah, I already talked to the bank about that. And Sabrina is like, well, I know someone who works for this company. I can give them a call and see if they have any information. So she goes and does that. So we now have Karen who's like, I know that he did this. There's no other discussion. He did this. He took my money. So now we have Danny, who basically brings up how well Zach is doing. He has a company truck and all this stuff. And the other ladies are just like, how did he get all these things? Is he doing something illegal? Will he go back to jail? The typical conversation that they've been having. And Karen does not care about any of that. She just wants her money back. So after that, we have Andy. She brings out her own bottle of wine because they say that Sabrina always buys the cheap stuff. And the ladies get on Sabrina about her cooking. Not that she's a bad cook, but she doesn't use salt, which means that her food is super bland. After that, Danny ends up asking if she's upset about being blocked or if she's upset about him taking the money. Now, I think that Sabrina is definitely upset that he supposedly ran up her credit card and spent up all her money. But him blocking her was just the cherry on top of another reason why she hates Zach and why she's on the I hate Zach train right now. Him blocking her didn't help the situation at all. So even when they talked about who has this bet going on, and, they open up and say, oh, Sabrina and Danny have it. She's like, so y'all just gonna, bet on if I'm gonna get back with him or not? And, they're like, girl, you know that y'all used to go back and forth, break up, make up, break up, make up. Let's stop acting like this is so new when you already know this is the first time that you guys have broken up and stayed broken up. So Danny ends up mentioning how, whoever this new woman is that he's dating, she has Zach's nose wide open and how, he keeps telling her about their relationship. And I'm like, you really didn't have to bring her up at this point. But I think that she slightly wanted to see the reaction out of Karen. And Karen, she's like, was that supposed to make me feel some type of way that you brought up the fact that he has a new person? And Danny's like, no, it wasn't. I wasn't trying to do that. But I mean, honestly, she has moved on to Aaron, so I'm not expecting her to feel some type of way about whoever Zach is seeing. So then Danny ends up asking Andy, has she talked to Gary? And honestly, I hate how, when these girls are asked the tough questions or whatever, they try to act all innocent when they're answering. I'm just like, Andy could have answered that question, just regular. She's like, no. I'm like, you could have just said no. So they were like, well, has he tried to contact you? And she's like, yes, but, she didn't talk to Gary. And that's on this episode. We'll see if she talks to Gary in the future, because I don't think that drama is over at all. So, of course, after they talk about Andy, she's like, all right, let's change the subject. We can talk about politics. We talk about anything, the economy, doesn't matter, anything but men. And then we have Danny chiming in like, well, what else is there to talk about? And Sabrina's like, well, we need to keep having these type of conversations. And I'm like, Sabrina, shut your ass up, because it's not like you're being open with the ladies about what's going on with you and Calvin. So, next thing you know, Sabrina is the one who spilled the beans on what's happening with Danny. She lets the ladies know that his racist brother showed up to her job, and pretty much everything after that, Danny didn't have to give that much input because Sabrina basically told the whole thing. Now, my issue with this whole scene is that we've already seen an episode where they tell each other's business, which was the episode when they all got together and went to dinner. And I thought it was just, oh, okay, that's just something to write about, because it's Danny and Sabrina doing it to each other. But at this point, I'm like, why is Sabrina going ahead and telling everything that Danny has to say? Like, Danny is literally sitting there. Sabrina, go get you some business. Like, I don't know, it's just something about that really bothers me, because I feel like Sabrina has her own drama going on, but she doesn't want to talk about herself, so she's going to throw in all the things that are going on with Danny, and that's super annoying. Like, the ladies end up going on to talk about how Preston and this whole situation was a bet. And she's like, that's not who he is. He wouldn't do that to me. And Sabrina, she goes and she chimes in and she's like, yeah, but he hasn't called her all day. He hasn't responded to her text, even though he always talks to her like all day long. And I'm like, Sabrina, like, shut up. This isn't your moment. And like, Danny's like, well, you're just trying to rub this in my face. And she's like, no, you just have to tell like the whole truth, because like you're not really telling the whole truth right now. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but I just don't like Sabrina's character. Like, the way she's written at this point, she is so annoying. Like, at this point, you are sticking your nose in business that you don't even need to address, especially when Danny is sitting right here and she can fully express herself. But the ladies, they basically try to comfort Danny, be like, oh, like, we hate this for you. It wasn't the same type of comfort as they gave Andy when she was going through all her drama with Gary. But it was good to see them attempt to care about Danny. So after that, we get a scene of Danny ended up calling Preston again. But of course, he's not answering yet again. So we see her get to her apartment, and who is sitting outside her door? It is Preston. He has a black eye, and he looks all busted up. So clearly he must have had a fight with his racist brothers, And that is where the episode ended. Overall, this episode, I mean, it definitely kept my attention, but the only things that first scene, I feel like it just ran a little bit long. Besides that, I enjoyed this episode. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And go ahead and like, comment, give me a thumbs up, and subscribe to my channel. And I will talk to you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.